What's going on YouTube? Now everyone knows that the Silverado is the best-selling Chevy model, but what a lot of people forget about is this Equinox is also a great selling vehicle. As a matter of fact, this year's sales increase has it nipping at the heels of the Rogue and CR-V. That's why today we're taking a look at the latest 2020 version at Sutherland Chevrolet in Nicholasville, Kentucky. Of course, if you're in the market for any new Chevy, be sure to stop by their showroom or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that all said, let's see if Chevy has made any changes this year. So kicking things off with the exterior styling, there is one update right off the bat, and that's this new midnight blue metallic paint color, which as you can see is a very dark shade of blue. Other than that, the front design does carry over unchanged this year. So for the Premier, you have this fully chrome finished grille, and on the other trims you have black bars with just the chrome surround. The other important Premier difference are these full LED headlights, as opposed to the HIDs on the LT and the halogens on all the rest. In a separate housing down below, you have the turn signal, and for the Premier only, the halogen fog lights. As far as the rest of the styling, it continues with the same look for 2020, with the signature elements like the wraparound rear window. These taillights also have the same design across all of the trims, except for the LED elements that are Premier exclusive. And then finally at the bottom, you have a single hidden exhaust outlet, unless you go for the more powerful 2-liter turbo model. So all in all, the Equinox has a conservative design that looks handsome, and will continue to age very gracefully. Now while the main part of the design has not changed, there are some wheel updates for 2020. The biggest change is the fact that these 18-inch wheels on the Premier now do without the black contrast inserts from last year, which does now give them a more subdued look. There are also some optional 19-inch wheels on this 1.5-liter model, or standard on the 2-liter model. But otherwise, you're going to be looking at 17-inch alloys as standard across the other 3 trims. Moving on up to the mirrors, they come in 3 different finishes: black, body colored, or chrome reserved for the Premier, along with auto dimming abilities and standard blind spot monitoring. All models, however, do get heating. And now that brings us to probably the most important change for 2020, and that's that most of the advanced safety systems are now standard across the entire Equinox lineup, instead of just being optional on the Premier. That means that even the base LS comes with forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, and auto high beam headlights. And then the Premier also has the option of adding adaptive cruise control. This is definitely a great addition to the lineup, especially since the base price has not changed. Well, that pretty much finishes up everything to look at on the exterior, so now let's go ahead and check out the cabin. So unlike a lot of the rivals, the Equinox does actually give you Chevy's smart entry system standard across the board. And if you opt for the Premier, you will get remote start on the fob or as an option on the LT. Now to get inside the vehicle itself, there is not a sensor behind the handle, so you just press the little button. Alright, so checking out the cabin of the 2020 Equinox. As you can probably tell, there have not been any significant changes to the interior this year. That does mean you'll continue to be presented with the same color options and materials as last year. So for your L and LS, that's going to be a cloth seat in medium ash gray only. And then if you go for the LT, it does come standard with the same cloth, but you can option on leather, and you can also get the additional color of jet black. Now when you go for this Premier, this is where you have standard real leather in jet black, this ash gray combination or a special brandy color. Now turning over here to your door trim, it is very nicely finished. So you have this nice piece of leather that goes all through here and up to the top. Your driver's window is one touch auto up and down. All the others are just auto down. As far as your memory seats, these two-person memory seats do come standard on the Premier only. Now heading down to the seat here, the LT and the Premier do come standard with this 10-way power adjusting seat. And then the other models come with a 6-way manual seat instead. Then like I was saying, here on the Premier we have the real leather seats. They feel very nice and they also look very good. I like the color contrast, so you basically have the jet black accents around the side and then the gray in the middle. So as far as the materials of the cabin, they do carry over this year. So across the upper dash, this will always be hard touch plastic across all of the trim levels. But when you go for a higher end model like this Premier, we have this really nice piece of leatherette. Two different types, so you've got the plain and then also the perforated and the real stitching to connect them. Your lower areas are hard touch, but everything does fit together very nicely. Standard across every Equinox is push button start. When you press it, you'll see one of two different displays fire up. On this Premier, we have the 8-inch display, and on all the other trims, you will come standard with a 7-inch display instead. Now checking out the gauges here, this is the premium arrangement with the larger multi-function display. Now starting last year, Chevy did bring this down to the LT, so it's on both the LT and the Premier. And basically it just has the larger 4.2-inch multi-function display, and then you can scroll through all of this different types of information, including for different things like safety systems if you do have them equipped. Now coming back to the steering wheel, it is electric power assisted, and the steering wheel is wrapped in leather if you go for the Premier or as an option on the LT. Now you do have your buttons for your cruise control as well as some of your safety systems, and we also have the optional heating here on this Premier. On this side you get your phone, voice, and then your buttons for your multi-function display. As far as the steering wheel itself, it does manually tilt and telescope. Now moving on to interior storage. This is one area where the Equinox really thrives compared to the rivals. So starting out here with your center console, this is honestly bigger than just about anything in the class. I don't know if the camera can fully see this, but this goes down like 1.5 feet and does have a nice little pad down at the bottom. But this is, like I said, definitely bigger than most of the competition. You've also got 2 USB ports in there. Then we close that off, we've got another storage cubby right here, our 2 cup holders, and then a really large console up here that you can stick your phone. This pad here does serve as a wireless phone charger if you go for the Premier. And then back there you can see a regular USB port, a USB Type-C, an aux jack, and a 12-volt outlet. Now Chevy has been able to give you that much space without going to the electronic shifter like its sibling, the GMC Terrain, has. So this just has a regular shifter. You just pull back for drive. You can shift manually with these little toggles here, but you will not find paddle shifters on any of the models. Now when we head into reverse, you'll see one of the other standout features of the Equinox, and that's this 360-degree camera system that's optional on the Premier through the Convenience Package 2. This is one of the best systems in the industry. It's General Motors' latest high-resolution camera system, like in the Silverado. So basically, you've got default as your 360 view and your traditional back view, but you have tons and tons of other views. So as you can see, we can cycle through all these different things, including a trailer view, this kind of three-dimensional look, side views, and you can turn on and off your lines as well. Basically, like I said, overall it's one of the best 360-degree camera systems in the industry right now, and it is available here on the Equinox. And then back behind the shifter you do have an electronic parking brake. Now moving on up to the climate controls. This is the dual zone automatic setup that comes standard on the Premier only. However, you can option this onto the LT through the Confidence and Convenience package. But of course, as you can see, this is very simple to use. You just have these two easy knobs to adjust the temperature, and then all your other buttons are laid out physically here for you to press, though they do pop up redundantly up here on the display to show you what you've selected. As far as the seat climate controls, 3-stage heated seats come standard on the Premier, and then the 3-stage ventilated seats that we have, they come in the Convenience and Confidence package 2. That's a Premier only option. Alright, and now that brings us up here to our audio system. Now every single model does come standard with a 6-speaker system throughout the entire lineup. However, on the Premier, you can option on the Bose system when you choose navigation, and that's what we have. So let's go ahead and take a sample. Sound quality of this system is excellent. Definitely one of the best systems I've heard in this class. Alright, so now that brings us up here to our Chevy Infotainment 3 system. This was updated last year to the latest software. So we'll just go ahead and take a real quick look through the system. So what you're looking at here is the home screen. You have these little tiles that you can click on that can take you as a shortcut button there. You also have the little shortcut buttons along the bottom that you can real quickly toggle between. Now I'll just hit the highlights here. One of them is going to be our model's navigation system. This is optional on the Premier, and like I already mentioned, it does come with the Bose audio system as well. So this is General Motors' newest map display. As you can see, it is a very nice graphics. It's also very responsive to pinch to zoom and other types of motions, and you can even do interesting things like change the tilt with 3 fingers, kind of like Google Maps. Now the other main thing I want to mention is that even if you choose the base models that come with the lower end system and the smaller display, those also come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, just like this one. So rest assured, even if you do not get integrated navigation, which the majority of models will not have integrated navigation, you will still be able to access Google Maps or Apple Maps through Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. But anyways, that's a real quick discussion of some of the main features of this system. However, we do have a dedicated tech help video available for those of you who want to learn more. A link to that video is in the description. Now moving on up, we do have an auto dimming mirror on the Premier or optional on the LT, and that comes with 3 universal HomeLink remotes as well. Now one thing you'll notice missing from this model is a moonroof. That's because Chevy does not offer a standard size moonroof. You have to choose the panoramic one, which is available as an option on both the LT and Premier, but obviously we don't have that option checked off. But overall, the cabin of the Chevy Equinox continues to be a very pleasant place to spend time. The redesign that they did in 2018 really amplified and made this cabin a lot more pleasant of a place, a lot more luxurious, and you definitely have all the features to make it a very class competitive environment. But anyways, now I'll go ahead and hand it off to my brother Mason, who will check out all the back areas. Alrighty, so heading around to the 2020 Equinox's rear seat,
you are going to find a really large amount of space even for its class. You'll find 40 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of rear headroom, which does place it above the main rivals like the Toyota RAV4 and on par with the Honda CR-V. Now turning over here to the door trim, we do have a really nice one. So it is leather wrapped all the way through here, and it does have a nice color contrast stitching going through here, and you do have a power window. Now down below that, we do have some bottle storage. And as far as the seats themselves, they are that beautiful color contrast design, so you do have black on the outside, gray on the inside, and they do also recline. Now here in the center area, Chevy has given us some very nice features as standard equipment. So you do have these rear air vents as standard equipment across all of the trim levels. And down below that, you will also notice our heated rear seats, which are optional in the Premier trim. And down below that, you will also find 2 smart charging USB ports. And on this high-end model, we do also have a household style outlet down below that. Now here in the center, we do have a fold-down armrest with cup holders inside. And off to the left here, we have LED lighting and an assist grip. And like I mentioned before, this is one of the largest offerings in the class, and that definitely shows behind Drew's seating position. I have about, I would say, at least a foot of space between my knees and the seat back, which is very impressive, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. So heading around to the tailgate of the Equinox, it is standard hands-free power on the Premier trim, or it's optionally just regular power on the LT. So to open it, just wave your foot under the bumper. Now once inside the Equinox's trunk, you are going to find a little bit smaller space than you would in most of the rivals. You'll find 30 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats, and if you fold them, it expands to 64 cubic feet. Now, like I said, that is a little bit smaller than a lot of the main offerings like the Honda CR-V and Toyota RAV4. However, Chevy does finish it very nicely back here, so you do have a carpeted floorboard, and underneath of the floor we do have a little bit more storage space. It actually goes all the way to the very back, and it's probably 8 inches deep. Now off to the side, you will find the controls to fold the seats, so if you just grab these little levers and pull, and they do fold nice and flat. Now over here in the passenger seat, it is optionally 8-way power on the Premier trim. All the other trims do have a 4-way manually adjusting seat. Now in front of the passenger, you do have nice materials, and down below that you will find a good sized glove box. It is nicely dampened. And up top we have a sun visor with integrated lights and a mirror, and it does also detach and extend. Well guys, that sums up all the rear areas of this Equinox. So now let's go ahead and get on the road and see how that 1.5 liter turbo performs.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain options. Now this vehicle, unlike a lot of the competition, actually has 3 different engine options. So what we have is the base option, and it's the most common configuration. It is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 170 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque. And it is paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now Chevy also offers a more powerful 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and that makes 252 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission. And finally, there is also a diesel model. Now, I've heard some rumors, it's a little unclear what trims are going to be offered with the diesel this coming up year. They're going to be eliminating some different configurations of it, and it's not been EPA rated or anything yet for 2020, but There will be probably a 1.6 liter turbo diesel making 136 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque, and that's routed through a 6-speed automatic transmission as well. As far as your fuel economy, the 1.5 liter with front-wheel drive gets 26 city, 31 highway, 28 combined. The 2 liter front-wheel drive is 22 city, 29 highway, 25 combined. And then, like I already mentioned, the diesel does not have ratings at this time. But anyways, that is it for the powertrain information, so let's go ahead and see how it works on the road. So upon initial acceleration there, the Equinox feels pretty good. This is a small displacement engine, even for the class. Usually the engines are naturally aspirated or a larger turbo. But it certainly doesn't feel too weak or anything.
Yeah, I think it feels class competitive. It's, it's not the most powerful one in the class or anything like that, but, it feels pretty class competitive here in this base form. And if you don't find that acceptable, then it is worth noting that Chevy does have the 2 liter option if you want that. And it even though it does cost a little bit more, you have that option, and that will put it at the top of its class in terms of power.
That's right. Chevy is pretty unique in that. Certainly not bad. Now we're cruising down the highway here at 55 miles an hour, and seems very smooth and very quiet. This is a really loud road. I know from personal experience, no matter what you drive on this road, you usually get kind of a lot more road roar than typical roads give you. But this is handling it well. It's still hushed in here. I feel like I can have a conversation at a normal speaking voice. And then I also don't hear any wind noise whatsoever.
Yeah, and it rides really, really comfortably too, It almost felt like we were sitting still, driving 55.
Kind of rounding that corner there, you can definitely tell the Equinox is a more luxury-minded option compared to some of the rivals. The steering is very light, but of course that is typical for the class. And you do have a little bit of body roll, nothing too bad, not going to make your passenger sick or anything, but just enough to keep things real nice and comfortable. Like we already said, it does ride very well.
Yeah, 55 again. I'm really, really comfortable. The seats are nice, and it's quiet, just very smooth. Even, we're about to hit a bridge here, and it just very little makes into the cabin. It's almost pretty uncharacteristic for the class to be that smooth.
Yeah, really, it kind of feels like a bigger car than it is. I guess would be a good way to put it. It rides like it's a bigger and heavier vehicle than what a lot in the class are like. So overall, this is definitely a pleasant driving vehicle. I don't really know exactly what to say about it, and I think that is actually a compliment in this class, because it's not an exciting vehicle to drive, sure, but in this class of vehicle, what you're looking for is that comfort, that everyday, you know, driving abilities, so you can just get in it, drive, be comfortable, have a nice experience each time, you know, and I think it really does that well. There's no characteristic of this that, like, there's no fatal flaw, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It does everything well with the driving experience and should be very satisfactory.
Alrighty, and now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for the 2020 Chevy Equinox. So for your very base L model, that's going to start at $23,800, and all of these prices are for the 1.5 liter turbo engine and front wheel drive configuration. Then you have the LS, one rung above that, and that's going to come in at $26,300, which is up $400 over last year. Then one more rung up on that is the LT for $27,500, which is up $300. And then you have the Premier, which is the fully loaded model, which is what we have, and that's going to start at $31,400, which is also up $300 over last year. Now, if you want to opt for that 2-liter engine, that's going to be around $2,500 extra, and all-wheel drive is an extra charge on top of that as well. Now, as far as how this particular Equinox is equipped, we do have the Premier trim with the 1.5-liter engine and optional all-wheel drive. And we do also have several option packages checked off. So we have the Confidence and Convenience 2 package for $1,650, as well as the Infotainment package for $1,125. And then we have the Destination Charge, which has been raised this year from $995 to $1,195. So the price for this one as equipped comes in at $36,970, which is pretty class competitive, but it is worth noting that if you want to get it fully loaded, it is going to be quite a bit more expensive than a lot of the rivals. As you can tell, we don't have a moonroof or anything like that, and that is going to be additional charges, and it can, you know, go well over $40,000 in the upper trims with the higher end engine. Well guys, we've enjoyed watching this first in-depth look at the 2020 Chevy Equinox Premier. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.